Okay, let's run on over to Facebook. Let me make sure that's working. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Authors Unchained. So this month, we are getting to interview, getting to talk to, getting to hang out with one of the coolest, most talented authors in romance, in my opinion. I was just telling her in the waiting room a couple of minutes ago that I'm working on my third read through of her series, like right now. And there aren't a lot of books that I give that kind of, I don't know, gravity to. I tend to be a one, like, hit it and be done kind of reader. I grow bored kind of easily, and I have trouble ever recapturing that really special feeling the first time you read something. Um, but I have to say that Newly Undead and Dark River pulled me in for the third time. I mean, right off the bat, knew exactly what was going to happen, obviously, and still kept myself up until like 2 a.m. Finishing it up, and had to actually talk myself down physically from picking up the second book, Happily, I think it is. Yeah, well, the second book in the series, and starting it at 3 o'clock in the morning. So, so this is an author who has staying power, incredible control and skill with the English language, and a real talent for, I don't know, I would say humor, and a really highly tuned emotional understanding of characters. I never have the feeling with Grace's characters of why is she doing this, or why is he doing that. And if I do, I know to wait a few pages and I'll probably get the answer. Um, I think my favorite of Grace McGinty's books is probably the Maelstrom duet. I don't know what it was about that one. I think it was the way that bipolar was shown, and it was so refreshing to me and very realistic. I'm somebody who I live with somebody with bipolar disorder, and so it was just like watching my life to some degree. Anyway, Maelstrom is incredible. Please, please, please read it. And then, of course, the big thing is she wrote this incredible series about vampires and shifters, and then also wrote this incredible contemporary psychological kind of angsty, dark. I wouldn't call it dark. It's got enough funny stuff. It doesn't really feel dark, but contemporary and angsty and darker. And then also has written just everything you can imagine, country and western. Um, I would say more mafia, MC leaning stuff. Cross with paranormal. Just and never ever seems to hit like a bad note with it, which is just shocking and amazing. So now that I've talked a little bit about what we love about Grace McGinty, we're going to bring her into the room. And I have a list of questions. I have a lot of questions from the book Cult this time. A lot of you were reading through it and making notes. And because she's such a popular author, many of you were already really familiar with her work, which has been nice. It's been really a great conversation in there all week. All right, let us bring in Grace and we'll say hello to her and give her a big welcome. There she is.
Hi, everyone.
Hello. Hi.
How are you going?
Welcome. How was the green room? Did you avail yourselves of the offerings?
I mean, never tell, but
Yes. I have an imaginary green room that is the Zoom waiting room, and every time I bring an author on, I invent more things that are in it. And yes, hello. Oh my cat says hello. All right. So first of all, really important is that it is my PA Chloe's birthday today. Can you say happy birthday to Chloe for me?
Happy birthday, Chloe!
You met
Yay!
Chloe, which is just shocking
Did
and amazing.
I did in Edinburgh? Was it in Edinburgh?
Yes, it was Edinburgh. Yep.
Just lovely.
Yes,
You're lovely,
indeed.
Chloe. Happy birthday.
Yes, she's just the absolute best you could imagine. Okay, so let me pull up my list here. So I do send, just so that the audience kind of knows this, I do send the list of questions out ahead of time to the authors, though we rarely ever stick to it. So I don't know if it actually does any good.
It makes me feel
But
reassured. It's fine.
I feel like I'm making my like a little jail for myself, you know, like, well, I can't get too far out of line. I've got I already sent the questions.
I'm like, what? This is not on here? Yes.
Yeah, right. That's what I'm waiting for. I'm waiting for that anal author who, which I haven't met yet, who's like, hey, wait, that's not on the list. All right, let me pull up my untitled document here. Okay. So, we're going to start with our Fast Five, which is kind of a warm up that we do with each author. Um, and so these should be like, you know, one word answer, but they never are.
Okay.
Okay, first
So
one, sweet. Do you like sweet or salty when writing?
I am a sweet fiend. I am a chocolate girly, much
A
to
chocolate
my
girl.
yeah, doctors probably discussed, but it's coming up to Easter and Cadbury's make these chocolate eggs and they made them in a pineapple flavor and it's just if I don't end up with
Pineapple and
diabetes.
chocolate. I've had chocolate, like I've had dried pineapple, like in chocolate. That was actually really tasty. That does not, yeah,
Yeah.
that's cool. I would do that. I would
It's
do
come with the
that.
dark side.
Some of
Fine.
the Australian snacks have made me a little, I don't know, but that I would do. Okay,
Yes.
so you're more of a sweet. Do you like sweet cut with salty? Like would you do like
Yeah,
potato
absolutely.
chips dipped in chocolate?
Have you ever had popcorn and chocolate at like the same time?
Yes, yes, yes.
That's
Yeah,
like
that's perfect. Yeah.
perfect.
Yeah, in the
Yeah.
US we have something called moose munch that we I used to have a relatives who would send this like container like this every year that was like six different flavors and it was yeah, it was real
Moose
good.
bunch. Great name.
Real
I love it.
problem right there. All right, so sweet and salty, mostly sweet. I'm more of a sour girl. I like
Oh,
anything that's like a sour candy. That makes my brain happy. Yeah.
there you go.
All right. Which magical creature would you adopt as a pet? A dragon,
I
a vampire bat. Why don't we call it a manix? No, because that really, this is the problem. All of these could be sentient, and I'm just not comfortable with this. Even the even the house ghosts might have a problem with you adopting them as a pet. We're gonna skip this because there's a consent issue. We're gonna move right ahead of which of your characters would be the worst to go on a road trip with. I want to hear this one because I think I know who it is. Go ahead.
is it is it Walker? Because I was thinking about this. I'm like, because you guys that were doing Dark River, I mean, any of
Yes,
the
that's
alpha
exactly what I
holes
was
are gonna be
thinking.
hard. Yeah,
Yep.
like
Yep.
he would insist on driving, and then he would
Oh
also
yeah.
insist that only the driver gets to pick the music, and like that'd be it. I'd
Okay,
have to
now
strangle him.
pick one from Maelstrom for me. Who would be the worst one to travel with?
Oh goodness. No, see,
I
Otto would
didn't
be
prepare
lovely.
for that.
No, Otto, Hendrik probably because we'd never get anywhere. He would be way too easily diverted by things. So wherever
Yeah,
we were
the
going for
ADHD is
whatever
no
event,
fun.
yeah,
Yeah.
gone. He'd be just gone. Yeah.
Yeah, I have a cousin who we'd all like be like, not me. Yeah. We're stuck there somewhere. Not me. And it got to the point where the whole family went to Africa and no one wanted to fly with her. It was really bad. No, she was a terrible traveler. She's a lovely person and a great mom and probably not what she was like when she was 15, but yeah, I get that. Okay.
Yeah.
Next, let's look at um what's the last book, movie, or show that made you ugly cry or full body laugh?
Oh, so I was thinking, like, I will, doom scroll on TikTok every morning before I get out of
Mm-hmm.
bed and get to work. But
Mm-hmm.
do you remember that fish, that lantern fish that came up to the surface and died? I swear to God, I full body cried about that damn
Did you do
fish.
the
I'm
yeah,
like,
like
it just wanted
that?
just the sun. It was awful, absolutely awful. The last book I reckon that made me ugly cry is I was on my way back from I don't know, Ireland or somewhere on the plane, and I was reading Rise of the Illyri by Lauren
God.
Hadley.
Oh
Oh,
God, Aaron Hadley's
I
amazing.
was ugly
Yes.
crying. I didn't sleep. It's about
Yeah.
24, 25 hours from Ireland home on the flight. I didn't
Mhm.
sleep the whole time. I binged the whole series back to back, and was the poor little
It's
flight
an
attendants were still
amazing,
giving
like
me
anybody
like
who's watching this, if you
yeah,
have not read Rise of the Illyri by Aaron Hadley, you are missing out. I
it's
talk about
very good.
Path of Temptation a lot, which is one of our other series, and just for some reason has like one of my brain cells captive for like 3 years now. Um, but but yes, Rise of Leary. Also a really good example of an author who knows how to finish a series. Like her books do not
Yes.
slow down. She
Mm.
doesn't hit that pause in the fifth book where you're like, all right, what's
Yeah,
happening
always.
now?
Yeah, no, absolutely. She's such a good craftsman.
Yeah, such
Absolutely.
a craftsman. Yeah. Because she does the outer plot like so well that even
Mm,
as the people are getting along better and they're figuring their shit out together, there's so much going on around them that you never kind of get,
yeah.
okay, I'm kind of done with this.
Yeah. Yeah. She
Yeah.
never hits that lull. It's always bam, bam, bam,
Hmm.
bam, bam.
It is.
And
She's
curveballs.
just
Yeah.
a master of the pace. I can almost feel it
Yes.
sometimes when she starts to slow down, and I'm like, oh shit, something big's coming.
It's gonna be bad. Yeah.
Yep, yep.
Absolutely.
Okay, okay. So that's a good one. Let's look at another question. Okay. You're reincarnated in one of your own books, right? Oh,
Mm,
I'm sorry. Yeah,
yeah.
who do you want to be if you were
But
reincarnated as somebody?
I also thought really hard about this, right? So, Rain, I'd like to be Rain because I'd love to live in Dark River. You know, that
My
kind of,
God, right? And the
yeah,
and
and all
the
those
amount of
guys.
sweets that you could eat. I mean,
Like,
no,
oh my
I know.
gosh. But
No, Rain has
or
a pretty sweet life. Yeah, I
the
totally get
kitty,
that. Mhm.
or uh OJ from Ruffled Feathers, which is like the Amigaverse I just released. And
Yes,
she's,
I read that. Hmm.
yeah, like I'd say she's possibly closest to my actual, well, no, to actual my personality now. So
Oh,
probably one of
good. You're
those two.
knocking another one of those questions out for me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, there we
Did you hear
go.
that? She said, yeah, yeah, I really liked Rumpled Feathers. That was just a very sweet book and
It was.
funny, really, really funny. Yeah. Hi. The cat is like, did you know it's 9 o'clock at night, Mom?
It's time for bed, and we're not in bed. I just
We're
wanted to
not in
inform
bed.
you.
Yeah. All right, I'm gonna back you up a little so you have a place to sit, okay? Chilling out. Okay, let's do another question. I'm so excited. All right. Um, so what's something about being an indie author that you didn't expect until you were in the thick of it? So did you have like a really considered journey into this where you sat and had like a these are the positives of going to being an author and these are the negatives?
No, no. Being an author is always something I wanted. Um,
Mhm.
but when I was in high school, being an author
Mhm.
was not something that they brought up in the career day as like, oh, you
No,
can be
right.
this. No, so you go and do a bunch of other things first. Uh, and originally I decided to be indie because I
Mhm.
wanted to write. Well, I started under Grace. This is going to be revolutionary. Grace is a pseudonym; it's not my actual name. And
No,
so
no, stop,
I know it's like
stop. The
Batman.
fourth
Who?
wall.
What? uh, so
Okay.
I decided to go indie if because I was going to write smutty,
Mhm.
Seven Deadly Sins romance, and I figured, you know what, if it fails, it fails, you know, and it's not under my
I love
name.
the setting
It'll
of
never
it.
come back to me. Yeah, so
Yeah.
that's why that was the considered journey. But I did always
Mhm.
want to be an author,
Yeah.
but I
Okay.
didn't. And
That's a
yeah,
totally thing. What about it has been the most surprising part of the journey, do you think?
um, what of being an indie author, just how
Hmm.
much work it is outside of the actual writing. The writing is the fun part. You know what I mean?
I know it absolutely is. Yeah. Hmm.
Yes, and then but the all the stuff that goes on behind the scenes, the administration and the all the procrastinator work I call it because I do it when I'm procrastinating writing. It's just
Hmm.
unbelievable,
Yeah.
unbelievable
The
amount of stuff.
promotional
So I
and
think that
yeah.
oh yeah, and that's I think the most surprising part about being an indie author because you think I'm going to write this book and then I'll release it and then it's magically going to do amazing
Yeah.
and it's just
Certainly, this was the
not.
hard part, right?
Yeah, no, no. All that time spent writing that book, the easy part. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
that was pretty easy. Yeah. I look back at the first book that I wrote without any expectations, without any fans, without anybody asking any
Mm.
questions, and it was like heaven, you know. It was like this open play pit of like
Putting everything
who
I've ever wanted to
cares?
do
Write
in one
whatever you
book.
want.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Um, not I'm not complaining, but yeah, it is a lot of work. Okay. I'm glad that you said that it was a lot of work because one of the things that I always seem to end up talking with people about is like word counts and stuff. It's interesting.
Hmm.
What's a good day for you? Like, let's get into the nitty-gritty just a little bit about the craft. Like, how do you set yourself up to be successful?
Uh, it took a long time. So I've been Grace since
Hmm.
2017.
Okay.
Um, and it took me a long time to actually come up, and I wouldn't even say I've nailed it now, to come up with like a plan for every day that keeps me productive.
Right.
Um,
Mhm.
and some days it works better than others. Some days it just like it gets to lunchtime, I'm like, that's it. I cannot physically do another thing.
Right.
I'm just gonna go and doom scroll for the rest of the afternoon. But yeah, so most of the time I work school hours.
Uh-huh.
So I work from 9 to 3, and then outside of that is lifetime, not work time. So I think that really helps having set work hours, thinking of it as work, like a job, really helped
Yeah.
me stay productive because after a while, the writing does start to feel um, like a job. And then the more you procrastinate it, the harder it is to go back to it. So you got to
Yeah,
do
yeah,
it even when you don't feel like doing it. Yeah.
yeah. And
At least
it can
attempt it.
start to feel, yeah, it can start to feel like performative. Does that make
Mm,
sense? Not
absolutely.
not so much for your readers, I don't know exactly how to put it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it starts to lose a little bit of that I'm in the mood to write sort of
Yeah.
like, you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
And a
Absolutely.
little more of like, I have to do 5,000 words today or I'm gonna fall so far behind. I won't be able to find my way back. And oh my God. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There's a lot of guilt in being an indie author, I think. It's just like, oh,
Mhm.
if I don't do this,
Yeah.
I'm going to miss my editing date, and then I'm going to miss my pre order date. And then
Mhm.
I'll have to push it
Well,
back, and then my readers will be
let's
mad.
talk about this. You're somebody, how many books did you put out last year, Grace? How many books did you
Question
release in
four, I
2024?
think it was 4 or maybe 5. 4 or 5, I think. Oh, couldn't
Mm-hmm.
actually tell you. It's about that, I
4 or 5.
think.
And they were chunky, right? We'd say that they were on the thick side.
Some of the, yeah, I think I sit fairly around 85, 90,000 words. And I think that's my sweet spot for pacing and setting like character
Hmm.
growth and all that kind of stuff. And I can get that into 90,000 words, 85, 90,000 words. And
Okay.
like now I've written so many books. I know like they're all around that size. So I can tell as I
Hmm.
write where I should be, if you know what I mean. To like,
Yeah.
oh, I'm at 40,000 words now. I have to start setting up the climax and this and that and this and that.
Hmm.
So it
Well,
always ends up
that leaves me with a really great opening to ask you about how do you plan? Do you plot?
Ugh.
Do you pants it? How are you?
I 36 books later, and I am still a pantser. I wish to God that I could plot. I wish I was one of those people who could plot out an entire book, chapter by
Yeah,
chapter, scene by scene, and then just let it flow out. But
right.
I find that if I get to know what happens in the end at the beginning, I don't want to write the book anymore. If you know what I mean.
Oh my gosh,
I
see,
just
you have to experience it with the reader. That might be why you're so good at it,
yeah,
honestly.
yeah, because yeah, I'm not literally telling myself the story as I write it, and
Yeah. Hmm.
and so I'm a
Hmm.
little bit further ahead. So like I know certain plot points that I want to happen. Like I think I start most stories with about 5 or 6 major things that I'd like to happen. Like
Okay.
I'm not going
Yeah.
to
Hmm.
stick
So
strictly to them.
you have like anchor scenes in your head.
Yeah, like oh
Maybe
this.
you're writing to an end that you kind of know how it's.
So yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
kind of. Yeah, and some no, absolutely. And just sometimes halfway through, just like, yeah, no, that's not actually how this is going to end, and
Hmm.
we veer wildly to the left. But yeah, kind of. So still
Yeah,
parenting after
yeah,
all this time, one day.
I'm familiar with it. I try really hard to plot and plan. What I tend to do is I do have a pretty good idea of the basics of how it's going to
Hmm.
break down. But I have found that if I over plot, if I over plan it, I just end up wasting my time because as soon as they start talking in my head, they do whatever the fuck they're going to do,
Yeah, so true.
I mean,
Like,
I
oh,
cannot tell you how many times I'll write like a little scene outline, right? Like before I start, I always write like 2 or 3 sentences that just say like, this is what I'd like to happen in this chapter.
yeah.
And I'll get to the end, I'll be like, okay, 2,500 words. I probably should stop it here. And I'll go, huh, I got to one of the things. The other things all took off into a different direction. 3 other people came in the room, and now I'm at the end of the chapter, and those things didn't get done. Like,
Isn't that
yeah,
the way?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Um, I do wish I could plot and plan as well, but I also kind of like that, it's a little bit of a surprise for me too. I get that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I hadn't really thought about
Absolutely.
that before. That I would probably be really bored if I was just like following a script and not allowing myself any
Yeah.
leeway. Yeah.
Great. Yeah. You want the creative freedom, and the characters want the creative freedom. So yeah.
Right. Yeah. Oh, God, they get real mad if you don't let them do what they want. Yeah. Okay. What is something that I mean, we talk about traditional versus indie authors quite a lot. We do, you and I mean, probably with other
Mhm.
people. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know who we is. Not the readers. They don't give a shit.
Collectively, we. Yep.
The
Gotcha.
collective literary bookish community is buzzing about indie versus traditionally published authors. Is there anything that you can think of that an indie author has like more leeway to do or can do better or has more
Mo-
I don't want to say flexibility, but maybe agile
Monster
sort of
smart.
yeah.
Yeah, I think the traditional publishing route has always been
Mhm.
based on the market, but it's always been a bit of a gate to, the
Mhm.
absolute infinite amount of ideas and stories and that are just out there in the world. They're always a gatekeeper, and I feel like that the indie world has like set that free. Everyone's going around the gate, and there is
We're
audiences
like, what
that aren't
gate?
just the major. It's like you don't have to just like James Bond stuff, crime fiction. You don't just have to like
Mhm.
women's lit. You can like monster. Can we swear in this? This
Oh
are
yeah,
we allowed
yeah,
to
go
swear?
right ahead,
Okay. You
please.
can like monster fucking and whatever
Mhm.
else, whatever. Like I always used to laugh when I first started out. It was that dino erotica stage of publishing. Do you remember that? And I
Yes.
always used to say, you know, without the indie world, how would I know
How would I
how
even know about one
a
hot style
stegosaurus would have
Allosaurus
sex?
summer?
Exactly. Like, I mean, the world is
Yep.
literally your oyster. You can, And like Vera Valentine, like I love Vera Valentine. I think, you know what? She's just so great. And there isn't there was never a spot in the traditionally published world for like sentient
I know.
doors. Okay. And I think,
Yeah. Yeah.
and the
Or
stories are beautiful.
balloons or ships or
Wha- whatever
Cracker
else.
Barrel kegs or
One day I just want to walk through Walmart with Vera
yeah.
Valentine and just say, but what about this? Just like hold off a random thing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
she's
Yep.
great.
She is.
But yeah, so I think that creativity doesn't need to be put in a box, and I
Definitely,
think
right. I mean, you're not going to be able to sell your editor, your Random House, your Penguin, whatever, on.
mm,
I'm probably naming publishing houses that no longer exist or something and really dating myself. You're not gonna be able to tell them that you want to write this very important thing about oh, like about the chair in the hotel room where the cuck always sits, and it's the cuck chair, and we're going to hear an entire story from the POV of that fucking chair. And I want to write
no.
that. And you're not be able to tell Random House about your
It was
cuck chair.
it was funny. Even a couple 5 or so years ago, trying to sell audio rights to books like Mannix, where I had to
Mhm.
explain the concept of impreg and like shifter romance and Amiga. Like it was
They're
hard.
butt babies. They're babies that come out of the butt now.
You're fun. No, they don't really. They don't really. I promise. I made it as biologically
I know,
legit
I
as
know, I know.
possible.
I'm fan fictioning there for a second. Um,
uh,
yes, the embreg, there are no butt babies.
no butt babies. All comes out very C-section, very legit.
Yeah, so legit. Okay. So right. So obviously indies, you're gonna be able to write about what you're gonna write about. So you follow your passion, your need for sentient objects, your whatever,
Mm. Whatever you like. Yeah,
whatever it
absolutely,
is you're into, there's probably something there for you.
absolutely.
Right. And I think that I could be wrong, but I do believe that generally indie authors just make a lot more money. You
We
don't have to give up as much money to your publishing company. You don't have to
no.
pay back every bit of money that you put into promotion before you make any money.
Money.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. It is. It's true. And I guess
Mhm.
being traditionally published, it's a lot less, I wouldn't say it's a lot less stressful, but it probably isn't. There's a lot more of that ideal where you write a book, you release a book, because all that
Yeah.
admin stuff that indies have to do, they have whole departments for. So, I mean, in a way, it's definitely better. And it's definitely more socially acceptable, I guess. Maybe
Well,
not so much
yeah,
now.
right, right.
Now being indie is okay. But back in the beginning days, in the olden times, being indie was kind of like, oh, you weren't good enough to be traditionally published, basically,
Yeah,
was the thought.
I never, what I think it is? I grew up really loving science fiction and like pulp
Mm,
and
mm.
reading like the old magazines and my dad's old Philip K. Dick books and
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
um and there was always this like part of me that was like looking for like the weirdest shit I could find, and it got me reading indie published things like real
Yeah.
early, like I don't know, 2000, 2002, something like that. I was
Okay.
already starting to look for it. So yeah.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. um I think there's actually like a fine tradition of sort of self-publishing in a way. It just never really got picked up the way that it does now. And
Yeah,
that's mostly
absolutely.
social media. Yeah.
Mm.
So what do you think of all this? I mean, while we're talking about this, um, I'm sure your books were all in that big AI dump to Meta, right? Because
They
mine
were.
were,
Thank you,
and
Meta.
I am
Yeah.
4% the author you are. So I knew
Yeah.
yours were.
I
Yeah.
just I was scrolling and
Yeah.
I'm like, in the end, I didn't even scroll all the way to the bottom because
You're like, okay,
I
so
was
we'll
like,
just assume they're all here.
they're all there. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I mean, piracy has been an issue in the publishing
Yeah.
world for every trad or indie for like as,
Mhm.
since there's been the ability to digitally, copy something. So, am I
Yeah,
mad that
it's absolutely true.
AI
Mhm.
AI has that Meta, who is a big company, did something so very dodgy? Yeah, mad
And
about it. Like,
we're interconnected with Meta. I mean, I don't know how much you depend on it, but I really need my Facebook groups. They drive
Mm,
sales. I really
they do.
need to be able to reach my readers in a place that they're comfortable, a place that they'll meet me. And
Yeah, absolutely.
I can't afford to just say, fuck you, Meta. You know, like I can't.
No,
I wish I
that's
could,
the
but yeah.
the joy of an oligarchy, I think. Um, we are over a barrel with both Meta and Amazon,
And
and
Amazon. Yep.
yeah, they have us by the short and curlies, and there's nothing we can do
By the
about
short
it.
and curlies. That's a very good way of putting it. Yeah, it's it's like we're too poor to have
Yeah, I need you to pay my mortgage. Otherwise, I would be like, torches and pitchforks, but like,
Yeah, I
also.
know, right? Right. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. It's very
hard.
okay. Well, that was a good. Okay, let's talk have you ever had, okay, this is a good question because I think the answer is no, but have you ever had a launch flop or a moment where you thought,
Oh,
what have I done? And
no,
how did
no,
you handle it?
I have absolutely had books flop, 1000%. Um,
Okay, like that, like really would not, I mean, and I'm not just like a reader, I'm like, watching you as an author a little bit too, and that just does not come across. So that's very good.
yeah.
Whatever you did very well.
No, so like, it's always a bit of a gamble,
Hmm.
especially if you're writing off trend. Like, you'll know the trends. The trends come and go. But if you
Hmm.
decide the muse is off trend, you run that risk of flopping. Inside the Maelstrom, giant flop. Like its release, wild flop. Like
A
even
4.8
now,
rating on it's like a
I think
4.8
it's
rating on
amazing. I
Amazon
love it.
and it has
Yeah,
like 2,500 reviews. Maybe that's the problem is that like flop is,
but it's been out
it's subjective.
5 years or something. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
okay, that
Like
is
five
true.
years, and I think
Hmm.
it's no, maybe it's 4 years. I don't know, something like that. So like, yeah, it is subjective. What is a flop and what is a success? But
But
you
it's
always
not
judge
your
it.
usual, but it's not the usual voice that you use, right?
No, I know it wasn't the usual voice,
It
and
wasn't, yeah.
it was a story I think that was in my brain for so long, and it was the story that I gave myself permission to write. I'm like, okay,
Hmm.
this is not what's currently selling for me, but I have like this little window where I can write it and still sustain myself, and maybe people will love it or maybe people will hate it, but it was something that I wanted to write. Sometimes that happens. Sometimes I let myself do that.
Well, again, I mean, that is, you've got to do that. And it's a
Yeah.
really, it's a good place for us to talk about. Like, one of the things that first occurred to me when I realized that Chloe had stalked you and made you do this with me, um, is that, uh, is that
uh,
I, I keep saying, oh, paranormal's fun, but I would really love to write X Megaverse, or I'd really love to write a mafia book, or I have this MC thing in my head. And all my very lovely author friends are like, you're going to need a different pen name if you're going to do that. You'll disappoint your readers and they won't be happy. And we've seen it happen before. And then I go,
yeah.
but Grace fucking McGinty can write whatever she wants.
But
And
Grace
of
said
course,
I
they usually then
can.
remind me that I'm not Grace fucking McGinty. So that's probably the problem. But
Yeah.
so was that like just it's too much trouble to come up with a pen name, or was that just like everyone will fucking deal?
Yeah, pretty much the latter. I'm like, uh, I think
Okay.
I started and never picked a lane to start with. All right. So I started off with a couple of MF romances. So shout out to people
Mhm.
who've read The Last Note or in Bright Lights from a Hurricane. And then I went to
That's
Reverse
right.
Harem
Yep, yep, yep.
and MC, and like I never picked a lane to start with. And so as I grew my reader base,
Hmm.
what I actually was growing was people who enjoyed Grace McGinty books rather than people who enjoyed, vampire novels or
Right.
people
So
who
this
enjoyed,
was not like, yeah. So you were like, I'm not looking for the Omegaverse reader who just binges every single Omegaverse that comes out.
yeah,
That would be nice if they drop by, but I'm
that'd be
counting on
absolutely
my
lovely.
readers
Yeah, and like just growing
who
that.
will just
So
yeah, will trust me. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Should you do a different pen name? The brain's trust says yes, but I figure, readers, you got to put more faith in your readers. I think they will follow you if you
Mhm.
take the leap. In my opinion, mine do, and they're
Yeah.
just a beautiful set of people. So, but
6
yeah,
months
it's still
later, Grace, they didn't follow me.
they didn't follow. That yeah, everyone's
Yeah.
is different, and everyone's. And I came into the
Mhm.
indie author world, reverse harem especially, when it was just starting. So not just
Yeah,
starting, way
you
back
are
when.
one of the you're the OG. I mean, absolutely.
And it was just a time where there was such a thirst
Mhm.
for RH novels that I could write whatever I want, and they would be so hungry for the actual overarching genre that they would come along with me, and so I got lucky there.
Do you actually believe that? Do you believe that you got big as you are because of scarcity? Because that's not it.
Way back
You're an
when, I think
incredibly good
maybe.
you're like a really good writer. Like that's it really wouldn't have mattered if there were 100
Uh,
reverse harem books out. I get what you're saying, but I'm just
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Um
Thank you. I don't
Scarcity
know.
is not what has driven your success, I'm afraid.
I'm always worried that eventually, it'll
Oh,
the whole
we all
genre
do.
will.
That's yeah, it's the
Yeah,
imposter syndrome,
yeah,
creeping around our brainstem. Oh,
absolutely.
every book all 35 books you've written, they were all flukes.
Yeah, that's it. Well, not all of them were successes. Absolutely, not all of them were successes. Like Tangled Threads of Fate. I loved that writing that series,
Oh,
that duet.
I have the duet. Yeah, I've got the
Yeah,
hardcover. Yes. Thank
yeah,
you.
and you're
Um
welcome.
I very
But
much love
it
that one
failed.
too, but I'm crazy about like Greek myths and that kind of thing. So this was just
Me too.
easy. Yeah.
Mm,
Yeah.
mm.
Have you read Corinne Rochelle's Hunks of
Oh, this.
Herculaneum?
No, I haven't,
You've
but I
got to
should.
read it. Oh my God, go read that right now.
I
And
love,
then she wrote
I
another one
love
that's like
Korean.
the ones about the Norse ones,
Oh,
somewhere in
the Baba
Chattanooga.
Yaga ones. Yeah, yeah, yeah. No,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
love Korean. She's so lovely. She's the sweetest person. No,
And the
I don't think
superhero stuff she writes is fire. I mean, just holy
so
moly.
funny.
Yeah.
So funny.
So
Yeah, she's
funny.
great.
Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah, she's wonderful.
And the Baba Yaga thing she wrote too was awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah, like I've
yeah.
got a bunch of I've enjoyed just about everything I've ever read from her. But if you like the mythology stuff, that is probably one that you
Yeah.
might want to try one day.
I I was kind of hoping that it'd go better because unintentionally, it came
Yeah.
out around the same time as Blood of Hercules by who's that by?
Oh yeah. Moss, Jasmine.
Yes, yes,
Yes, Moss. Mhm.
yes. So
I haven't read that one yet. I do enjoy Jasmine
it's
Moss, but I have not read The Blood of Hercules yet.
it's traditionally published, so it'll take a while to
Yeah.
now to come around. But it was
I
really
was
good.
reading that Court of Ravens when that was coming out, and I was very much in that. I really liked that.
In that headspace, yeah.
I was in that headspace if I just want really dark, morally gray. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah.
Um, yeah. Okay, so Tangled Threads of Fate did not do as well as you wanted. Okay.
Well, it
I can
happens.
see that. It felt a little to me like it wasn't aimed at like the jugular of
No,
you know what I mean?
it was
It
one of
felt
those
like
things where
yeah, it felt like a love project. It felt like something you were writing because it was, that story that
something
you
that I
just
enjoyed.
really yeah.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And that's the risk you run when you write off trend.
Hmm.
And I feel like
Yeah.
I'm in a position where I can do that.
But you're in
And
a
even if
position
they
where you
flop,
can absorb some of those
yeah,
blows,
yeah,
and
I
your
have
reader
enough of a
base
back
is
catalog.
yeah, your reader base is big enough that you make your money back regardless. So,
Yeah,
um, yeah, I totally get that.
yeah.
Um, okay, so if you had to give not Grace McGinty, but a normal writer who's getting into the business right about now, like somebody who's just finished writing her first manuscript,
Hmm.
what would be your bit of advice for them?
It's a sucky piece of advice, but
Yeah.
build your author platform now. Like, start now. Once you release your book, it's too late. Start now. Do your promos and your snippets and build on social media,
Right,
personality,
right. Yeah.
all that
Okay.
tedious back end stuff. But the more your name is out there, the more awareness people will have of you. So when they're scrolling through that ginormous list of a million books
Yeah,
and they see your name, they'll be like, oh, I know that name, and
right.
click on the book. You got to start so early.
Either that or start with like a name that no one is going to ever forget. That's another way to go at it.
It is absolutely, God,
I
so
wish I
good.
had a little more of the lady balls at that moment too. When I
I
was
know some
picking
people have some
names.
beautiful names.
Some
I'm like,
great
oh,
names. Like, yeah, like one that like Latrexa Nova. That's one that always that's
great
somebody who
name.
writes like really good monstery alien stuff that
Yeah,
I know. And the name is just like so like how are you ever gonna forget that name? Like yeah.
that's exactly. And try signing it too. Pick a name and then sign
Sign it. Oh,
because
that's a great idea. What a nice piece of advice. Do not pick an overly complicated name just in
because
case.
you're trying to sign like two Z's and an X, you're gonna be in trouble.
Mhm.
So
Oh
yeah.
yeah, 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 yeah. Okay, absolutely. All right, let me check our list here. I'm going to ask you a few questions, I think, from our book cult.
Oh, exciting.
Exciting, right? Okay,
Hmm.
so let me get down to the questions here. Where are you? Oh no, they're not here. I must have stuck them. Hold on, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to look them up because I know I sent them to you. I'm just going to go over and look real quick.
That's a good idea.
It's like I'm like, where's the last place I saw them? Oh, I sent them to Grace.
Oh,
They're not in the document that I had open. I was trying, I just didn't quite make it. Okay,
it's
here we are. Okay, so um reader question. Here we go. Why are grumpy ancient vampires so damn hot? And okay, and this seems like it's just a throwaway question, but it's not. I actually want to know, like, what do you think it is about the human psyche that makes like a 23-year-old, 300-year-old who looks, 25, like super duper hot? Like, what do you think that is?
and I guess it's kind of that exchange of experienced and hot. So you can have experience, it's like a little diagram, right? You can
Mhm.
have experienced and hot, and the more experienced you are, you tend to be like, you know, really old, obviously.
Yeah, that's
So you can
true,
kind of
right?
like
Right.
judge that.
Hmm.
It just seems hotter. As
That's
for the
really
grumpy part,
smart.
yes, it's the experienced hot trade-off. Um,
Hmm.
as for the grumpy part, I don't know. I think we can all kind of relate to being a little bit grumpy and like
Hmm.
the broodiness. Everyone loves a broody, you know,
Yeah,
MMC,
it's
don't
true.
they?
Though I would read the fuck out of a 2300-year-old himbo vampire. I really I think that would be so
uh,
funny.
yeah, so funny.
I mean,
Me too.
honestly, Judge is like on the line there. Judge has got some
Is it?
himbo-ness, but also
He
he's
does.
he's like Mr. Hit it and quit it and whatever. That's, it's
Yeah,
pretty himbo too, actually.
and
All right, you might have
he
already done
certainly
it.
is.
Hmm. You might have already done it. I don't need anybody to write that. You all just put your pens down. I don't need that. Okay. Um, where did the inspiration from Rain come from?
Ah, Rain. Um, so when I write, I tend to start with characters rather than plot lines. Sometimes it's plot lines, don't get me wrong. Like when I
Hmm.
wrote the Daymakers, the plot line in my head was like sleep token glory hole, and that was the whole idea. And then I wrote the character around that. But like for Dark River, I so for Dark River, I had this like Rain was in
Okay.
my head basically, and I wanted
Hmm.
the girl who woke up undead in a ditch. That was the little line that amused me enough to create a whole
Okay.
series around it.
Well,
Yeah.
that's
So
hilarious. Yeah.
yeah. So and then it's kind of I was very much in a binging Gilmore Girls kind of vibe, I guess.
Hmm.
So I
So
thought,
you ended up
well, I
with
should say,
Rain. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
I Yeah, we were talking in my Discord about how Rain changes so much, and one of my readers was like, I wonder if that was always the like, did you know like this is the character arc that this character is going to undergo, right? Like Rain is this like kind of careful, boxed up girl,
Yeah,
And then by the end of the series, she's a queen, she's
yeah, yeah, absolutely. No,
yeah,
that was definitely my intention.
yeah.
I wanted to create a character that, as she grew, she
Hmm.
didn't lose her humanity, but she lost the restrictions of what was socially acceptable for her, if you know what I mean. Because why
Hmm.
would you live by human acceptability norms if you're going to live forever? You know what I mean? So
Yes,
it
Sookie. Why
started with,
wouldn't you do that, Sookie?
duh, yeah,
Okay,
right.
sorry.
So like eating cheese fries when you've been on, watched your calories
Yeah.
your whole life and sleeping around because why
Very,
not
yeah,
you?
yeah. The
You know
the
what I mean?
eating is super relatable and quite a bit of yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we all talked about that, how much we enjoyed, like, hell yeah. Because so many times it's like the trade-off for vampirism is that
Yeah.
you may not eat food. And you're like, that's a really big trade-off.
Oh, yeah. How does that even, like, cheese fries never again? That's insane. Like, no, you keep your, eternal life.
Mhm.
I'm keeping my cheese fries,
Yeah.
my
Right.
mortality. Yeah. It's
Okay. I really also appreciated with Rain that you dealt with the question of like, she'll probably outlive her shifters. And God, that's a
Yeah.
hard thing to write about, right?
Oh my God. I still get a lot of messages about this, and I feel absolutely awful every single time. But yes,
But yeah, it's like
I
lore is lore. What are you gonna do? I mean, did they really want
that's
you to like to plot
I think so.
armor it? Yeah, yeah,
I
they
think
did.
so.
Okay.
And like in some now I say, whatever you want to happen is what happens. They find something one day that
Hmm.
makes them live forever. But in my canon, you know,
Yeah, of course she
wares don't live
outlives
forever and
Tex.
then
Of
they
course she
die.
does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, love is a beautiful thing, and it's a
Hmm.
finite thing from everyone who isn't, uh, a vampire. So it doesn't make it any less worthy, if you know what I mean. Anything less beautiful.
Yeah, yeah.
It's just sad. It's just
No,
sad.
I'm
But
I'm dealing with the same thing right now in the last book in Meet Your Maker, so I'm totally there with you right now.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
But
like
people
it's
do
like
still
okay,
message me about
the
this.
true way through here is not to bend the lore because you don't want it to upset
No,
anyone because
no, that's right.
this is just how it is. But on the other hand, I don't want messages, so I don't know.
Yeah, I do have like in my brain. So Tex and Brody,
Yeah.
and they all die, and even the wolf pups in the third book, everyone dies. They're all mortal. But because I'm a bit of a softie, I always have like there is a tiny itty bitty this
Mm.
big Easter egg in Sweethearts and Savages, which is like the spin-off, Eden Academy
Yeah. Hmm.
spin-off, with a possibility. I'm never gonna uh, confirm or deny if it ever happens. There's this tiny little thing, this tiny little throwaway remark in Sweethearts and Savages that could give you hope if you don't want them to
Oh
die
shit.
at the
Are
end.
you gonna make me go read this book again to find this
No.
remark?
This
Challenge
tiny little
accepted.
thing, and you'll be
Okay.
like, what? But yeah,
Oh. Hmm. Yeah, okay.
maybe I'll address it
All
in the
right, all
third
right,
one of
all
those,
right.
but
So
maybe not.
that's how you got to deal with it. It's funny. Like people are always like, "Do any main characters die?" And I always want to go like, "Eventually, sure."
Like, I
I
know.
mean,
Yeah, no, I
that's
know.
just how it goes, guys.
They have a
Okay.
whole life after
Um.
the end of the book. Yeah,
Well, right, right. Um.
yeah.
Okay. So, um. God, I don't want to ask you that. We're We're obsessed with the idea of vampires pigging out on pastries in the afterlife. How did that concept come to be? I think we talked about that a little bit, but yeah, go
Yeah,
ahead and answer it
yeah,
directly.
yeah. I just, vampires are, hedonistic creatures, I guess. And why wouldn't
Yeah,
food be one of those things? You know what I mean? In an
yeah, yeah.
eternal life, I feel like that you could try every type of food there was, and with zero
Right.
consequences.
Okay. I think that's a totally fine answer. Um, It's funny though, because like the way that you and I are different is that like I'm like a Libra and there's some part of me, it's like, there has to be, you got to pay for these things. So
It-
what is the thing that you give up that's worth, having eternal life? And pastry might be it for some people. Yeah.
Well, in Dark River, I guess it'd be eventually your sanity, unless you find yourself a
Yes.
little succubus. But yes,
Yes, yes,
eventually,
yes, yes, yes. Yeah.
yeah.
I do love the doddering old vampires. Okay, did Judge fall for Tex at first sight, or was it more about his duties with X in the beginning? This is a reader question. There were a lot of Tex and Judge questions, just so you know.
He is he is the Tex and Judge are like the sweet couple in the beginning, in the
They
first
are,
book.
yeah. Hmm.
Yeah, and I think Tex is one of my favorite kind of tropes in that he's like the best friends to lovers trope. So, and he was always so
Hmm.
devoted to Rain. And as you
Yeah,
said,
it was
Judge
nice
is a
to
little bit of
have.
a man
It
whore.
was,
So
I think it was really smart to have I mean, I know sometimes people will accuse us of trope packing, like where
yeah,
we're like, okay, well, how many things can I fit into my box? Let's have
yeah, yeah,
some,
yeah,
enemies to lovers, and then we're also going to have an age gap, and let me see if I can maybe make a best friend's brother thing happen.
yeah,
But
absolutely.
I think that second chance at love, childhood to best friend to love, I
Mhm.
think that's like a really valid thing with, especially with RH. I really do.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you have somebody that you don't have to explain everything with,
Mm. Yeah, it's
the
not like this
soft place to
instant love thing.
land.
Yeah,
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 the soft place to land.
absolutely.
And I think it also, if anybody at that point was like, what's so great about Rain that all of these super hot guys are falling in love with her? And then to have Tex come in and be able to kind of see Rain through his eyes, it sort of like
Yeah,
backs it up a little bit. Like, oh, she's an awesome girl. And he's known that all, she's been that
yeah,
way
yeah.
all her life.
Yeah, exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
But as for Tex and Judge, I think Judge was wildly smitten with him straight away. I mean, he's
Yes. Yes.
yeah,
I
yeah,
think so too. Yeah, I think it was convenient, not convenient. That's not exactly. It was handy. That's the same
mm.
word as convenient, but not quite as accusatory. Totally
Convenient. Yeah.
handy. Uh, that the two bisexuals were really into each other.
It is him, and that's always the thing that the risk you run, I
Yeah,
think.
I know. I
And
know. Yeah.
yeah, but I feel like, and this is just me, I feel like
Yeah.
that if you're a vampire who lived forever, I feel like
Mhm.
sexuality would be a whole lot more fluid than it
For
is
sure.
by
Mhm.
modern, you know,
Yeah. Yeah,
concepts.
for
But
sure. And honestly, Tex is a really different kind of guy. Like
yeah,
maybe not somebody that, and he's just not your average kid.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. So more text questions. We're gonna go ahead and get rid of those. Um, how do you balance moments of humor, like stealing food or dramatic plate stabbings, with intense emotional and romantic beats? That is from somebody in our reader group. So
Asking the hard hitting questions over there. Yeah,
yeah, yeah, I
yeah.
think that's really good. And I think it's also a bit of a like a like a sort of backhanded compliment, which is like how, this is not an easy thing to do. You're doing it.
Um,
So how did, yeah.
I think a lot of the human condition is, well, in my, maybe it's my own
Yeah.
issues in this one. I'm working on it with my therapist, but it's because in uncomfortable situations, I personally make
Hmm.
jokes, and so even when I'm writing
Right.
them,
It's the black, yeah, the gallows humor, the black
yeah,
humor.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, and that's a very Australian thing too, gallows humor,
Hmm.
very much
Yeah.
so.
Yeah.
So like, but
Um,
I think like not everything has is going to be, not every moment of even a dramatic time is dramatic, if you know what I mean. You
mhm.
you keep on living, It's, and I
Yeah,
want
you do.
the yeah, I want you
Hmm.
to be able to laugh, but I also want you to be able to feel, if you know what I mean. And that's my main goal in every book I write. So
I
yeah.
also think there's like a little bit of I don't even know what we'd call like what we refer to. I've never actually seen it like described before, but I'm sure there's a way to describe it. So if you have a really dark section happening
Hmm.
and it's just more and more darkness, people become
Hmm.
kind of immune to it, like they resistant to it, like they're like, okay, we've been down here long enough. But if you
Yeah.
throw a really funny thing in the middle of it, it resets them. They're like not nose blind to the darkness anymore.
Yeah, yeah,
And now
absolutely,
they can
absolutely,
fully experience the angst on the other side because you made them laugh. So I think that's also a really handy thing. Yeah.
absolutely.
And just pacing wise, you just, I mean, it's just how it comes out. You're not sitting here going, God, I really could use a funny thing here. No, you're
Oh,
just
no,
watching what they
I
do. Yeah.
the whole time I'm just like, I when I'm writing, I'm not trying to be
Hmm.
funny. Maybe a little bit later on, like in books like Paper Heart, where I was trying to write a rom-com, I go
Right.
back and think,
Make them a little
is it
funny.
funny enough? Yeah.
Yeah.
But no, my mum always says she does read my books. That's a question in there somewhere. But yes, she always goes and says it's a lot like talking to me in that I
You know,
will,
my friends in town have all said the same thing.
and
It's like, hey,
yeah,
Sarah, tell us a story. So yeah. So it has to be
yeah,
kind of an authentic voice for you. Yeah.
yeah,
I get that. I had that feeling. Okay,
yeah.
I apologize in advance for this, but the cult knows no bounds. What's your favorite sex position to write? We don't need to know your favorite to
Well,
write.
hang on, where's my notes? I was drawing pictures
Yeah,
now. I'm joking.
damn it. And do you try to keep things varied or go with what feels natural for the characters?
Yeah.
Um, and after this, there were quite a few posts about about sex positions that they'd read about that seemed incredible. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh,
That's that's a very good question. I think after what, so 36 books, each book has at least two or three
yeah.
sex scenes. So a
Mhm.
lot of sex scenes. There is a certain formula that I'll put in certain, you know, in every book. You know, you know
Yeah.
what I mean. Like every book has
Yeah.
a certain sex scene that's, that are like the base scenes, the what you would expect from a smutty book, all right?
No,
And
please tell
then
me some more about this. I'm going to need to know more. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
and the ones I really enjoy writing are the ones that have a little bit of extra flavor thrown in, like X and his Shibari, and
Mhm.
uh,
That was in the comments actually.
yeah, that was a
Exactly.
fun one to write. It really
Yeah.
was. And
Mm.
I've ruined
Yeah.
my search history with that one, but
Yeah, it's funny
for
how
a
you
long
you
time.
do you do write them sometimes and you go like that was a good one.
Yeah,
Like,
absolutely. And what else? I mean,
yeah.
you write a lot of orgies. I think you get tired of the orgies, but
Yeah, the
if you write
the
a
I put those off to the end because the multiple person scenes make my brain hurt.
I'm like, what is that
Like
guy
I
doing? Is he just
really,
standing in
if
the
you're
corner?
like if
I
you're
don't.
somebody who likes to write like very much in, first person point of view of the FMC, usually writing about the sensations in their body, trying to extend that over an entire scene of three other people fucking around them,
Yeah, so hard.
it's
That's
really,
like,
it starts to not sound like your voice anymore. I mean, it's like what I've
yeah,
come back to. I've started writing
it's
it from the
yeah,
men's point of view so that they can just sort of be like the camera in the room. You'll
yeah. That makes
notice,
sense.
you won't, but like my readers might notice that we don't see a lot of Sunday sex scenes that are multiple partners. That's the reason, because it's hard to
It
write
makes sense.
her, you know,
Otherwise, it
with
seems
her
like a procedure,
14
doesn't it?
bonds all in her
Yeah,
head, and also
yeah,
write
yeah,
about her body and
yeah,
everyone else's around her.
yeah. No, absolutely. It
Yeah.
starts to read like a procedure or a recipe or something.
Yes, yes, yes.
Insert
Yeah.
person masturbating over here, do this over there. Yeah, so it is
Mhm.
hard. Orgies are hard, but
Yeah. I think sex
sometimes they
scenes are,
work really well.
sometimes they do. Yeah. I think sex scenes are the only thing that I occasionally start writing and then change POV and go back and rewrite. Like I don't usually have that kind of dithering in my manuscripts, but I will sometimes get like halfway in and go, you know what? Not digging this from this point of view.
Reject, yeah.
Yeah. We're gonna have to try
I
that from somebody else's.
I often put off all the sex scenes, um, and do them all in
Yeah,
one go at the
I do them like in one weekend. It's a fun weekend, but it's
end. It's a lot.
I do the
Yeah.
same
So
thing. Yeah.
I feel sorry for my poor little beta readers. It's just like insert sex scene here, and they're just like,
Right. Uh-huh. And then you
Yeah,
give them a
so
dump, like, at the
it's
end,
like,
you're like,
"Here,
"And here
have
they
all
all
the sex
are."
scenes." Yeah. Oh,
I
yeah.
think it's smart to do it that way because that way you don't get repetitive because you're writing them
Yeah.
all kind of in a row and you're
Yeah.
not gonna your brain is more like listening and going, "We use that way of describing that person's hair like, an hour ago. Let's not do that again."
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay. Why is the maelstrom so good? That's me.
I was gonna say, was that a you question?
It's a
Uh,
me question. I'm the
uh,
reader. It's me.
it's well, that's a really good question. Or when people ask me what my favorite book is, it's always
Yeah.
Inside the Maelstrom, and it's getting its own audiobook, hopefully next month. So that'll be
That's
exciting.
awesome. I'll be
And
getting
I
that.
think
Yeah.
it's I don't know if it's so good, but I think it's kind of different to my other ones because
Mhm.
I was trying to I was at that point in my career where I was trying to write prove to myself that I didn't have to write,
Paranormal
straight smart. Yeah, to
or
be,
straight
I
smut.
could do
Oh,
this.
okay. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay.
But like just to like broaden my horizons. And it was a story that had played in the back of my head for so long. And I wanted to write a story. And I was very, very sensitive to the fact that because we're not all, badasses that have, dragged our way off up from the gutter or anything like
Yeah.
that.
Right,
Some of
right.
us are just, normal people who have normal issues. And I was
Hmm.
very aware of the fact that I didn't want all these characters who have all these different flaws. I didn't want the
Right.
idea that this FMC could cure them, or it's just I wanted a book where everyone was worthy of love, no matter
Yeah. Hmm.
who they were or what their past was or how rich or poor
Hmm.
or smart or dumb or anything like that. That you could have this
Hmm.
family and this love, essentially.
I'm absolutely fascinated with FMCs who start at the bottom. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
who start from their bottom, not like at the
yeah,
bottom of the corporate ladder, but like they are, waking up in a ditch. They are.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
You
absolutely.
know?
That's
They're at the
literally legit.
bottom and there's only one way up. I
Exactly.
really love that because I get so tired of perfect, like, everything looks perfect, everything sounds perfect, and,
Yeah,
they can kill a man six ways and balance the books for their clubs that they own, like
yeah,
I get a
exactly.
little
Yeah,
tired of it sometimes. So, yeah, starting with an FMC who is experiencing a bad turn in life.
yeah. I
And
know it's
and then
nice. Yeah,
also, yeah, and then also I really liked the bipolar representation in that book was fantastic. I've never read it done so well before.
oh, thank you, thank
Um
you. Like,
in a way that
yeah,
was compassionate and empathetic, but and never like tried to make it sound better than it was or worse than it was just very on.
I
Yeah,
did a
and
lot of
watching
research.
watching the people who that loved him and how they dealt with it was also just
Yeah,
so, yeah. Yeah,
yeah, because no
really good.
person is an island, and mental health, it affects the people around you as much as it affects you. And
Mhm.
so I really wanted that whole holistic view
Yeah.
of friendship and relationships and living as a person
Mhm.
with
But at
bipolar
the
or a
same
person with
time,
depression. Yeah,
a fantasy where you're picked up and go on this
yeah,
whirlwind tour around the world. I mean, it was just sometimes you need those like little injections of Cinderella, like I'll pay
yeah.
for it shit. That just it's like it's a book. Let's enjoy
Yeah.
this, you know?
I mean, all white shoes novels are a little bit of a fantasy because let's face it. So
Yeah.
yeah, I
Yeah, that's
think
because that's not really happening in real life. Not like that. I'm not
not
saying
like
that
not in
polyamorous
those
stuff doesn't
exact.
happen.
Yeah,
It does, but
absolutely.
I'm gesturing at you with feather right now. It does. All
But
right.
yeah.
Let me look at my list here because we're actually out of time.
Oh my goodness,
I
already.
know, I know. This is what happens. Okay, we talked a lot of this though. It's funny, like at the end, I always go, you know what? Somehow I managed to hit most of this. We're good.
That's good.
Okay, has your family read the smutty scenes or do you give them the clean versions of your book? You said your mom
N-
reads them.
Yeah, my mum does, and she gets the full
The
unadulterated
full
experience. And
frontal,
there's
yeah.
we never mention the sex scenes ever. Like she'll tell
Yeah,
me if she likes the book, she'll tell me if she hates the book, but
we just
we
don't talk
never
about it.
mention. It never
Yeah,
happened.
got it.
My
Okay.
sister won't read it, but
Hmm.
only because she says it's just too weird, and I'm like, I'm fine with that. But yeah, other than that, I don't let my
Yeah.
friends, my old co-workers, they weren't allowed to read
Hmm.
it. There's just something about having to look a
Yeah.
person in the eye. It's just,
I've been lucky. A lot of my friends have picked up and read it. My existing friends before I started to do this have, been reading them and continue to, which is shocking. The weirdest one though is my daughter is 27, my son is 24. No, she's
yeah.
28 now. Good God, she's 28. My daughter is 28 and is a big reader, but would never read my books because she's just not interested in, reading any sex. So it's really funny is that her friends are fans, like her girlfriends, and
I
will
know.
ask her questions, and she's just like,
Don't want to know.
I
Please
don't
don't
want to
tell
hear
me.
about it. I'm glad you like it. That's great. Yeah,
Oh yeah,
very funny. Yeah,
absolutely.
okay. I'm not going to make you do a dramatic reading unless you want to. Do you want to do a dramatic reading?
No,
Or
I'm
kind of.
fine.
Okay. And then it says, let's say corn is now canonically a shifter species
Oh
in one of your
God, yeah.
worlds. What's their vibe? Are they sweet? Are they creamed? Are they the
Not.
villain?
I also thought about this way too much. This is one of those questions. I'm like, oh, I
I'm glad we
don't
asked it then.
know. I feel like, I mean, so corn is obviously it's sweet until I feel like it'd have a golden retriever vibe. A little
Right?
cinnamon
Right.
roll, super
And the
sweet.
husk could be like the blonde hair and the
Oh,
not the
yeah,
the
that's
corn
right.
silk. The corn silk
Yes,
could be
that's
like
right.
the blonde hair and
Just
the
little slick
wind.
back things on it. I think that would be his vibe. I think he'd be the sweet one. Um, uh, yes,
Yeah.
the creamed
Okay.
corn. Yeah.
Sweet corn, kind of a golden retriever, maybe not super smart. Yeah, I
No,
always
I
think of
can.
the scarecrow when I'm thinking about like a corn man, like in the Wizard of Oz, like not in the
I
Hills
do.
Have Eyes or whatever. Yeah. Okay. Stop. That's it. We did it. Yay.
I couldn't see any comments. So,
I
if
don't know if
anyone
we
has any
got
questions,
any.
that's all right. If we got comments,
I checked
let
and
me
made
know.
sure we were playing. That's all I can do.
Oh,
All
that'll
right.
do.
Grace, thank you so much for coming and visiting with me today. I am
Thank
a
you.
huge fan, as you know, and will continue to be so. And talking with you has not changed that, which is great.
Oh, thank God. I was just
I'm like,
like,
God, I had no idea. I'm
so
never reading anything of
seeing
hers again. Yeah.
Goofy without his head on at Disneyland, like, oh, what the fuck? Yeah.
Okay. All right. You are always welcome to drop by and say hello at the book cult. And thank you for your time. Enjoying the rest of your
Thank you.
beautiful Australian day. It's spring there. No,
Oh,
it's
thanks.
fall there.
It
Must
is
be
fall
real
here, yeah.
nice. Yeah.
It's lovely.
See, I understand how the world tilts. Yeah.
We call it autumn though, but yes, just to
Oh,
make it
because
weird.
we call it the fall because there's like leaves falling.
It makes total sense to me. We call edge trimmers. Yeah. We call them whippersnippers. So we get the idea of
Wicker
naming something
sniffers?
whippersnippers because it whips the grass to snip them.
Whiffer snippers. Whiffer
That's what we call edge
snippers.
trimmers. Whippersnippers.
That's
So like
fantastic.
we
Okay.
get naming something after like what it does.
Yeah,
It
yeah,
makes
yeah,
sense.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've had really long talks with Sam Hall about this actually. My other
She's
Australian
very
friend. Yes, she's
good.
fantastic. All right, you
She's lovely.
have a wonderful rest of your day. Thank you for coming and always welcome to stop by and say hello anytime you like. Send,
Thank you.
any arcs that you have could just come right to me. That'd be great. Okay. Or
Thanks
Chloe,
so
she'd
much.
probably like them too.
Chloe. She's got your back, Chloe.
Yep, there we go. All right. All right. Bye-bye. Have a great
Bye
day.
now.
Thank
You
you.
too.